My maternal grandfather had two children, my mom and my uncle. Grandma died 30+ years ago. Mom died 3 years ago. Up until last year, Grandpa lived with my drug addict uncle in an apartment in a suburb of my city. When my uncle passed out while standing up and hurt his hip so badly he had to go to the hospital for surgery and rehab almost 2 years ago, my sibs and I realized just how bad Grandpa's living conditions in that cesspool of an apartment were. The heavily blood-stained bedsheets alone would be enough to make you barf. It took me a few months due to my own living situation, but I was able to move Grandpa in with me last year. We had to strip him down and change him into brand new clothes without letting them touch any surface, have him walk barefoot to the car, and bring nothing with him but his walker, wallet, phone, charger, and glasses case. So far, it appears we avoided bringing any bed bugs along. My uncle didn't want me to, of course, but what was he gonna do? Any complaint or call he tried to make would result in someone from some agency seeing his apartment and him getting evicted at best and arrested at worst. Grandpa was in such bad shape, I was 100% positive all I could do was let him spend his last few days or weeks in a clean, pleasant environment. Instead, he went from a size medium to a size extra large, celebrated his 100th birthday, and is still going strong. At my uncle's, he always claimed he wasn't hungry, but now that no one was telling him they couldn't afford food, he had a 100% normal appetite, mostly for pudding, but he's under doctor's orders to eat whatever he wants. I bought him a bed, mattress, clothes, 2 whole wardrobes when he gained weight from actually being able to eat, things to store them in, a comfy chair, and a table. He's still using the Android I got him a few weeks after Mom died since he couldn't borrow hers anymore. He can never remember how to text or make calls, but he can answer calls and loves to surf the web. It's on my plan, and I pay the whole bill. The cable and internet had been shut off at the apartment for months, so I'd upgraded to an unlimited data plan, and it had been his only source of entertainment there. I don't take any money from him for utilities or other household expenses. My roommate allowed him to use a mini fridge, nightstand, and 2 lamps that he's not using. My brother bought him a TV and brought over an entertainment center from his garage to display it. The grandkids and great-grandkids are able to come visit him. No one but me could bear to set foot in that filthy apartment even before we realized how severe the conditions were. No way could we subject children to it. We've had 2 big parties for his 100th birthday and Father's Day. We have 4 cats here whom he loves to receive visits from throughout the day. I registered him to vote at this address and order him a mail-in ballot every primary and general election. I was able to get him set up with the VA's home care program so VA doctors come give him checkups, give him vaccines, draw his blood for testing, etc. here at home, something my uncle never could have done even if he had the energy to be aware of it because he couldn't let medical personnel see the filth he was living in there. A social worker came to meet with him and got his wishes regarding care and end of life on the record. They have a home health aide come 3 times a week to do bathing, shaving, etc. and connected us with a podiatrist who makes house calls for the elderly for nail care. Yes, old people's nails really are incredibly thick and stiff and can't just be clipped the way we do to ours, but I digress, so his toenails are no longer sharp and gnarly. In short, his life and health are a million times better and happier here. My sister, a medical assistant, regularly texts me thanking me for taking him in so he wouldn't end up in the nursing home she sees on the job. It was around Father's Day this year that my dad voiced what I'd been feeling for a while but never said aloud or let myself fully consciously think, that I saved his life. Story: my uncle handed over Grandpa's debit card when we moved him out. He must have known I would just apply for a new one for him if he didn't. I'd snagged a bank statement from the apartment in the weeks leading up to moving him out, so I had Grandpa's account number, and Grandpa knows his own social security number, thank goodness, or I wouldn't be able to refill his prescriptions by phone. So, with his consent and participation, I set up mobile banking for his account on my phone for monitoring his balance and when he gets his social security and war pension deposits. Most expenses are paying for meds online, Instacart orders, and $300 a month to a debt collector because of course he just gave my mom his credit card a few years before she literally drank herself to death, and no one was making payments on it for years. We got the letter about that not long after I filed his change of address. The debt was in his name, and I didn't want to deal with the headache of them continuing to come after him while he was alive or after he died, so I set up a monthly payment plan online. It'll be paid off in 3 more months. My uncle had also let Grandpa's medical bills go unpaid for a while and had eventually signed him up for a tiny monthly payment plan for that, because paying it all at once would have meant less money for my uncle to take at the time. I paid off the balance all at once. Naturally, my uncle took all his money when Grandpa lived with him. The first month after we moved him out, my uncle tried to tell me Grandpa still owed him half the rent every month because his name was on the lease. I believed him but called the manager at the number listed in their lobby and asked when their lease was up and shared the story of how I had to move him out because my uncle could no longer care for him. The manager was confused. Grandpa's name wasn't on the lease, only my uncle's. You don't say. My uncle never responded to my text mocking him for such a stupid lie. But just because Grandpa was out from under his roof didn't mean the requests for money stopped. For one, my uncle had already entered Grandpa's debit card in the Grubhub app on his phone, so he still regularly uses it to order Grubhub several times a month, was doing it almost daily before I finally lost my temper over it via text. They both have Cash App on their phone, and while Grandpa doesn't know how to use it, when my uncle asks for money, Grandpa always consents, so I have to send it, or Grandpa would get beyond distressed and upset. Grandpa doesn't have dementia or anything. For 100, his mental faculties are incredible. He can't remember what day it is and will ask the same question 3 times in 1 minute, but he recognizes everyone. He can read and watch TV and comprehend it all, tell you what he needs, and, except for some repeating, have completely normal conversations. But he's always been a sucker when my leech of a mom and uncle ask for money. He is literally incapable of saying no. And if I just refused to let him do it or refused to let him talk to my uncle, like blocked his number or something, it would just upset him. So my uncle keeps requesting money daily starting halfway through every month, and he always gets it. Tonight, he agreed to give my uncle $56. Too bad, it's the end of the month, and he's broke. And so am I really am. I get paid in 2 days. I didn't tell Grandpa he's broke because he wouldn't understand why and would panic, but I did break down all expenses he had this month and texted the amounts to my uncle to prove he was broke and that it wasn't because I'm taking money from him. Between Grubhub and his constant requests for money, my uncle took $789.34 this month alone from the 100-year-old father he almost neglected literally to death. I took $35 for 2 Uber rides so I could get home faster to make him dinner on 2 days. Grandpa has told me my money's your money to use how I want because I take care of him. I would never do that, but I do occasionally use it for Uber rides home only if I'm going home to do chores or make dinner, never for anything fun. And what did my uncle respond? I should never have set up a payment plan for the debt from that unpaid credit card bill. They would never go after a 100-year-old man. Yeah, that's the problem. I told him to take it up with them or mom, and he didn't reply. Never pay any debt is my uncle's philosophy of life. When an electric bill came when he was in the hospital, he told me to just send them $50 so they won't turn the lights off. I paid the whole $200 plus balance from Grandpa's card because I didn't trust it worked that way. And the thought of Grandpa being alone in the apartment when the power went out bothered me more than him having less money in his account for my uncle to take. I shared the numbers with my sisters and dad. They agree it's unconscionable but also have no idea how to stop it because Grandpa just won't say no, and the only alternative is upsetting him by refusing to let him keep giving the money. Would it be worth it? Would it be safe for his health? We're not afraid of our uncle getting the law or anyone involved. Again, getting any outsiders involved in his business is a risk he cannot take no matter what. but of the effect it would have on Grandpa. We currently get along great. If he starts seeing me as an enemy or lashing out at me, our living arrangement would be a disaster. That seems to be the only way to stop his son from bleeding him dry, and despite our rage over his son using him this way to fund his drug habit, nobody's suggesting we risk that. And people say your kids will take care of you in your old age. Ha!